Dear students, a warm welcome to all of you to the biology classes. So, dear children, as you have opted biology for studying, you will have to be very honest to your subject. Okay, so you might have different plans, different aims in your life. So, by taking biology, so you will have to work for it and you have to understand the basic things. Okay, mainly I'll be following the NCRT book, and you can refer any kind of refreshers or any kind of other knowledge, whatever is available to you. So, I'll be mainly following the NCRT book. Okay, and how you have studied in 10th class. Okay, as I told you many times, it's very very important to read the textbook. Okay, at the same time you have to practice the diagrams if it is there. Okay, and you will have to be what punctual in all this. If you keep all the things together for the last moment, it will be very difficult. And it is not like how you learned up to 10th class, isn't it? It will be little more deeper. The concepts you have to understand more deeper, and you have to learn all this. Okay, and you should also develop the ability to think. Okay, always what you have to read the lessons, and there only you frame a question and try to answer to that. Okay, so in that way, if you read the textbook, then it will be easy for you. Okay, so when you are reading, you should what guess some questions what can come there, and you should try to answer it. In that way, if you read, it will be very easy for you. And also try to practice more and more questions. Okay, simply reading, you will simply read and go, means some of the questions won't strike to your mind. So what you have to do is you have to practice more and more questions also. Okay, while reading the textbook. Okay, after reading the textbook, you have to practice questions. Understood? So in this way, if you study, that will be a base for your 12th class. And for NEET exam and all other competitive examinations, the questions will be coming from your 11th class also. Okay, so don't think that it will be prepared later. So whatever you are learning, try to learn it thoroughly now itself. Okay, so that the exams will be easy for you. Okay, so as far as biology is concerned, there are different units. So I'm not going to give full syllabus now, but the first unit is diversity in the living world. So you understood diversity means you will be studying about the living world here. Okay, means introduction to life. Understood? What are the characteristics of life? All that will be explained in this chapter. Then the second chapter is biological classification, how organisms are classified. Okay, which all criteria is there, which all are the classification systems. Okay, and in the third chapter we'll be studying about plant kingdom. Okay, plant kingdom. And what are the various classification. You have studied little bit about all this in ninth class. Okay, and the last is animal kingdom. Okay, so animal kingdom and its classification, how they are classified into various groups like phyla. Okay, so different phyla you have to learn. So these are the content of the first unit. Okay, and we will have to go a little bit faster also, because so much topics are there and it is already late. So what I'll be going little bit fast. So if you are having doubt, we can discuss through the live class. Okay, the first chapter in this is the living world. Okay, so what do you mean by living? when you say that a particular organism is living, okay, or something is not living, you have learned this, isn't it? From your small classes you have learned that what are the characteristics of living organisms, like they grow, they reproduce, they are able to sense their environment, isn't it? And then also you can say that they do metabolic activities. Ability to replicate means they will be able to produce its own the copy, or what it's same as reproduction only, isn't it? Then self organize, interact and emergence. Okay, so all this will be the characters of living organisms. So let's analyze each of this. First one is what? All organisms grow. So first thing that comes to your mind for living organism is what? They all grow. So what is growth? Growth is what? The change in the body mass, isn't it? So if you see the growth of plants and animals, how they differ. The plants continuously grow through their lifespan, isn't it? Throughout their lifespan, they grow. Their leaves will come, their buds will come. Likewise, they will grow throughout their life. But in animals, how it is? That will be seen only up to a particular age. After that, they stop their growth, isn't it? This is the major difference between growth in plants and animals. And plants, the growth is localized, isn't it? At the root tip, at the shoot tip, etc., you can see the growth. But in animals, it is not like that. It isn't it? Isn't it? In animals, the entire body grows. And how this growth takes place? By cell division, isn't it? Cell division or cell enlargement, all these are what various what process by which growth is taking place, isn't it? Then so increase in body mass is considered as what? Growth. So when in an organism's bodies, okay, its mass, body mass is increasing, we can say that that particular organism is growing, isn't it? When you measure your weight, if it is 30 kg once, and if after some time, if it is becoming, after some months, if it is becoming 32 kg, you can say you are growing, isn't it? So body mass change is considered as the growth. So sometimes non-living things also grows, isn't it? Have you heard about Himalaya mountains grows, okay, or sandstones or sand mounds, they also grow by what? Accumulation of materials. So what is the difference between these two then? Living organism, they grow from inside, okay. So the other things, they grow by, means non-living things, if they grow by accumulation of materials, isn't it? So like this you can see the difference. So growth cannot be taken as the defining property of living organism, because why? Conditions under which this growth is happening also has to be explained, then only we can understand whether it is the characteristic of living organism. Understood? Then next topic is what? Next characteristic. So first characteristic I told, what is it? Growth. So growth we can take it as what or the characteristic of living organism, but it is not the defining property, because there is what we have to analyze which condition, whether the growth is taking place from inside or due to the accumulation of materials, or we have to understand that, then only we can what say growth as the property of living organisms. Then next is what? Reproduction. Okay, so reproduction means what? The process by which the organism produces its progeny, understood, which are more or less similar to the parents. So the property of organism by which they produce their young ones, which are more or less similar to the parents, is called what? Reproduction. Understood? So reproduction takes place by asexual methods also, isn't it? Means sexual and asexual methods are there. Asexual means what? Where only one parent is involved, okay, and what, there is no gamete formation. All that differences you have learned already, isn't it? So fungus, they reproduce by production of spores, isn't it? Then you can see budding, then regeneration, fragmentation. All these are what different types of asexual reproduction. Understood? So like in amoeba, okay, it is growth. Okay, when a amoeba is reproduced by cell division, it is what it is actually, its growth also, isn't it? So sometimes reproduction becomes synonyms with growth. How? Because where in unicellular organisms, okay. Then so single celled organisms, okay, in single celled organisms, so in unicellular organisms, okay, when they divide their cells, we cannot define it as what, whether it is growth or reproduction, okay. And there are organisms like mules, have you heard? Worker bees, then infertile human couples, etc. They do not reproduce at all, okay. So so because, just because of that they are not reproducing, we cannot say that them as non-living, can we? No. So reproduction is also not a defining character. It is a characteristic of life, but always it cannot define life, isn't it? So non-living things, but they are not able to reproduce or replicate by itself. So it's a character, but it's not the defining character, okay. Then next characteristic of life is metabolism, okay. What do you mean by metabolism? So in the cells a number of chemical reactions are taking place. The chemical conversions, carbon dioxide and oxygen, they combine, okay, they split, during respiration and photosynthesis, if we take. So like this, lipid synthesis, protein synthesis, okay. So all this kind of chemical reactions are taking place in the cytoplasm. Understood? So all these chemical reactions together we can call as metabolism, okay. So all this metabolic reactions that is taking place inside, that means all the chemical reactions that are taking place in the body is known as, in the cells, is known as what? Metabolism. You can see that in unicellular organisms, multicellular organism, plants, animals, wherever you see the this kind of chemical reactions are taking place, and the sum total of all the chemical reactions occurring in the body is known as metabolism. Understood? So metabolism is of two types, anabolism and catabolism. Have you heard? Anabolism means what? It is a kind of metabolism in which the smaller molecules, they combine to form big molecules, okay. On the other hand, so for example photosynthesis, during this what happens? Carbon dioxide and water, they combines to form carbohydrate, isn't it? But in respiration, glucose is converted to carbon dioxide and water, isn't it, with the release of energy. So respiration is a kind of catabolism and photosynthesis is a kind of anabolism, okay. This two together, this all the process means anabolism and catabolism is coming under what? Metabolism. So metabolism can be performed or can be done outside the body of organisms also. In a test tube, if you are doing, sometimes some reactions will take place, but these are all this can be the living reaction. So cellular, then another defining feature of life is what? Cellular organization. The organization of the body means, if you see, you can see the cells will be there. Cells aggregate to form what? The tissues aggregate to form the organ system, like this you can see. So the cellular organization of the body is the defining feature of life forms. Okay, then next is what? Next is the consciousness. Okay, that is the defining property of living organism. How? Because see, the living organism, they sense their surroundings or environment and they respond, isn't it? So you can see that the plants grow towards the light, isn't it? Then the means plants, they can respond to external stimulus like light, water. Their roots grow towards the water, isn't it? Temperature, then other organisms, pollutants, etc. Understood? So this you can see in anywhere, even in prokaryotes, in bacterial culture. If the temperature is, means if the all the growing factors are not optimum, the bacteria will not grow in a medium. Understood? Then photoperiod, that affects the reproduction in seasonal breeders. Okay, in plants and animals, photoperiod means, what is photoperiod? The time period in which the light is available. Okay, you can see that sometimes the day length is more, and in some means days of the month or some months of the year, you can see day length will be short. Okay, it will get night very fast. So at that time, photoperiod, the amount of light received by the plants varies. So this also help in what? Reproduction. Means this photoperiod affects the reproduction in seasonal breeders. They will sense this and then only their reproduction happens. Understood? So this is what? That is, the organisms are able to respond to the external stimulus, and this is because of the consciousness they are having, isn't it? So the consciousness because becomes a defining property of living organism. So life is, okay, because of various interactions, isn't it? So interactions of cells together to form the tissues, various organelles to form the cells. Okay, and like this, interactions among the molecular components comprise the organelle, and organelles interactions, they when they work together, that becomes the cells, isn't it? So in this way you can see the organizational complexity. Understood? So how can you define then life as or living organisms are self-replicating, evolving, self-regulating interactive system. Okay, which are able to respond to the external stimulus. So in this way we can define the living organisms, isn't it? So living organisms are what? They are self-replicating. Okay, then evolving, self-regulating interactive system which are capable of responding to the external stimulus. So biology is the study of, or it is the study of living organisms, the story of their evolution, isn't it? So all this together is coming under biology. Okay, we are studying the organisms, the living organisms, both plants and animals, and how they evolved, because we all have evolved from a common ancestor, isn't it? There will be some common genetic material, and the what they have evolved differently, and they'll be having variations, but still all are having a common genetic material, isn't it? Because the first cell was formed in the ancient means time. Okay, at the primitive earth, and from there that only different life forms are evolved, isn't it? So all will have a common genetic material. So in the living world, you can see diversity also, isn't it? It is not possible for anyone to study or to know about all the plants or all the animals around you, isn't it? So this number means the number of species that are known and described is around 1.7 to 1.8 million. There are still organisms plants, etc., to be discovered, and that has to be means described. So this huge variety of organisms is known as what? Biodiversity. Okay, biodiversity, or the number and the type of organisms present on the earth. Okay, that is the biodiversity. Understood? So it is difficult to know, means the plants and animals in our own area, means it is very difficult to what know the plants and animals which are present not only in our means not only in others area, or in our area also, isn't it? Every plants and animals, it is very difficult for anyone to identify and name it. Okay, so if we keep a local name, then the problem will be more, isn't it? So local name has to be means local name will be changing from one place to another. You will call a plant in with one name here, and when you go to the other part of the country, it will be called by another name. Okay, so this all will have problems. So there is a standard norms, okay, to give the plants or animals a scientific name, and that process is known as nomenclature. Okay, so what do you mean by nomenclature? The process of giving a scientific name, okay, to a particular organism, plant or animal. Understood? So what is the need, you understood now? So that if you give a scientific name, that will be known to any country, or if you go to any country and talk, then it will be identified as the same. So for nomenclature, first the plant or animal should be described. Understood? So that process is known as identification. You should identify a plant first, isn't it, or an animal first. See, this butterfly is a new species, it is different from others. Okay, these are the characters. Likewise, it has to be identified. Then the next procedure is what? To give give it a scientific name, and that is known as nomenclature. Okay, so if there is no standard norms, anyone, any scientist, okay, means different scientists will follow their own ways. So the name given to a particular organism, okay, for plants, scientific names are based on agreed principles and criteria, and that criteria is provided by ICBN, means the norms and conditions put forward by ICBN is what the basis for giving names for the plants. Understood? So ICBN is looking after to give the names to the plants, okay, scientific names. And likewise, okay, animals, for animals there is zoological nomenclature, international code for of zoological name nomenclature, or ICZN. Okay, their norms will be considered. Okay, so what is the need for this? The scientific name ensure that each organism will have only one name. Okay, Mangifera indica means mango. So if you go and talk this Mangifera indica in any country of the world, it will be identified as Mangifera indica only. Otherwise, locally only in India itself, there are number of terms or names for this, isn't it? So that creates a lot of confusion. So to avoid this, we should follow a scientific naming, and for this for the plants it is provided by ICBN, and for animals it is provided by ICZN. Okay, so biologists follow universally accepted principles to give the names to the organisms. That is, binomial nomenclature is the most commonly accepted system of nomenclature. Okay, so according to this, the name should have two components, the generic name and the specific epithet. You should not say there should be two names. Okay, what you will say? You will say that each name will have two components, the generic name and the specific epithet, means genus and species. A name having two parts. What are they? Genus and the species. Okay, and this system is provided by Carl's Linnaeus. Okay, Carl's Linnaeus binomial nomenclature. What do you mean by nomenclature? The process of giving scientific name. And binomial nomenclature is the most accepted one. And according to this, the name should have two parts: the genus name and the species name. Understood? So you can see example Mangifera indica. Mangifera is the genus name and indica is the species. Okay, so there are certain rules to follow the nomenclature. They are: biological name are generally in Latin and written in italics. Okay, they are Latinized or derived from Latin irrespective of their origin. Okay, actually, Latin was the major language. Okay, in the ancient time, like English, how it is now. In the same way, Latin was the language of scientists, especially. So, Latin words should be used, or the name biological names should be written in that will be generally Latin or and written in italics, or they should be Latinized. Okay, then the first word in biological name represents the genus and the second name will be the species. Okay, then if it is handwritten, they should be separately underlined. Okay, if you are writing the scientific name with your hands, handwritten, if it is, then it should be separately underlined. Mangifera. Okay, then you underline, and then indica you should underline separately. Understood? Then the first word denoting the genus, that will always start with capital letter, and the species name will start with small letter. Okay, you can see like this. Understood? So these are what nomenclature and binomial nomenclature, and the rules that are related to binomial nomenclature also I have explained. This you have to learn. Okay, because it can be asked in the examination. So this much is clear. So we'll continue in the next class. Thank you.